I'm gonna be honest, you should subscribe just out of appreciation of me watching this awful game again. What is going on, everybody? Welcome back to my channel. If you have not already subscribed, go ahead and do that below. But today, we'll be discussing the Brooklyn Nets' narrow 86-83 loss to the Milwaukee Bucks in Game 3 of their second round series. In a game that, we could be honest with ourselves, was not exactly a classic, but that's not what we do on this channel. We don't rank games by entertainment. No, instead, I'm going to highlight my 3 biggest takeaways from the narrow Bucks victory, plus I'm going to share a couple of other notes I had from Game 3 as well. Let's get into it. Milwaukee's Game 3 coverage on Kyrie Irving and Kevin Durant specifically stood out to me, as they had their 2 best one-on-one defenders, Jrue Holiday and PJ Tucker, hug close to Brooklyn's best players. You saw it in the first 6 minutes of the game. PJ Tucker is practically wearing Kevin Durant's jersey on the weak side of the floor. Now, because he's guarding a player in the weak side corner, he's technically Milwaukee's low man, which is just a fancy form of saying he's the last line of help defense should a net break free and drive to the basket. Normally, it's his job to rotate over in front of the basket to stop drives according to the rules of NBA defense. And to make those low man rotations easier, normally he'd have 1 foot in the paint to slide over without much trouble at all. But that's not what's happening here. It appears as if Milwaukee has adjusted its schemes, at least on certain possessions, with the goal of cutting off the head of the snake and putting a defender on Kevin Durant and Kyrie Irving at all times. Even if, in certain situations, that meant doing things like abandoning help rotations or help positioning. On the strong side of the floor, Brooklyn is setting up in Chicago action, which combines a pin down screen from one player, in this clip Bruce Brown, with a dribble handoff from another. In this clip, that's Blake Griffin, all for an offensive player. Here, Kyrie. But Milwaukee blows up this action by having Jrue Holiday top lock, which is when a defender positions his body so that his man cannot use a screen from his teammate, as Jrue does here by facing Kyrie to disallow Kyrie from flying off Bruce Brown's screen. Obviously, what this allows is for Kyrie to cut backdoor. That's the obvious counter for an offensive player to top locking. But when Kyrie moves toward the basket, he runs right into Brook Lopez, who does a great job of holding his own, allowing Jrue Holiday to recover, and a contested mid-ranger is exactly what the Bucks want. That was a lot of information and terminology, so I'm just going to let this clip play back again. So here we are again, more top locking from the Bucks. This time PJ Tucker positions himself so that Durant is unable to come off Bruce Brown's screen for the catch and shoot 3. PJ Tucker then jumps in front of KD so that the Nets cannot flow into pick and roll action between Durant and Irving. Jrue Holiday then shades Kyrie Irving toward the help and positions his body so that Irving cannot drive middle and has nowhere to go but toward the help of Brook Lopez. And that's a big block for Milwaukee's center. If you want more evidence of how much the Bucks focused their attention on taking Brooklyn stars out of the action, look at where Jrue Holiday is standing this entire possession. He's basically standing outside of the 3-point arc, glued to Kyrie Irving's hip, regardless of what the Nets do on offense. He's not in any sort of position to help should the Nets get a drive, and that's actually by design. Compare that last clip to Game 2, when the Bucks were hell-bent on taking away the paint from Brooklyn's offense. In this Game 2 clip, Jrue Holiday is playing in gap help, positioned so that he can stunt or fake at Kevin Durant on the drive to make the Nets star pick up his dribble, and then hopefully recover out to Kyrie Irving. Hopefully, which obviously doesn't go all that well. Now back to Game 3, let's watch that first clip again. You should be able to see it pretty easily. The Bucks abandoned those aggressive help principles and face guarded the 7-11 duo at all costs. Which, speaking of, PJ Tucker does exactly that here, denying Kevin Durant the ball, and Brooklyn is forced into two-man action with Joe Harris and Bruce Brown, with Brook Lopez playing a little higher up, which is a smooth transition into my next point. The evolution of Milwaukee's drop coverage was a fun underlying storyline to watch in Game 3. Much like the first two games of this series, Milwaukee opened with Brook Lopez in a deep drop coverage, positioned well into the painted area to take away shots at the rim. What that gave up was a whole lot of shots from floater range for Bruce Brown and mid-range shots for Kevin Durant when those two ran pick and roll to attack Brook Lopez in the deep drop. So because of how much the Nets were getting to Bruce Brown's floaters and Kevin Durant's mid-range shots in the first half of Game 3, the Bucks changed things up in the second half, having Brook Lopez venture out of the paint and play closer to the level of Bruce Brown's screens. And what this meant was that because he was playing a little bit higher up the floor, he was in better position to get a hand up should Bruce Brown try to get to his floater, and ideally make mid-range assassin Kevin Durant feel some pressure as PJ Tucker tried to recover back into the play. And as the game went on and on, Lopez showed higher and higher and closer to the screen. Here's that evolution I was talking about. Now you may be thinking, Matt, Kevin Durant is getting to his spot on like every single possession and hitting jumpers regardless of where Lopez is. Why on earth are you even highlighting this? And well, to that I say, remember how I said Lopez's positioning helped take away Bruce Brown's floaters? Well, being higher up the floor gives Lopez prime positioning to get a hand up on this floater with 3 minutes remaining. And here's another great contest, this time with 24 seconds remaining. Both of these were obviously huge, crucial misses in Brooklyn's Game 3 loss to Milwaukee. And overall, I thought the adjustment from Milwaukee to move Lopez a little bit higher up the floor was a great one. Now wait till the Bucks hear about this crazy thing called switching. It's a shame Bruce Brown's game ended the way it did, because the dude had basically one of his best, most complete games of the season up until the final minute. The Giannis-Chris Middleton pick and roll has the potential of being one of Milwaukee's better actions. And with a guy like Joe Harris defending Chris Middleton, Joe being a little bit bulkier and slower means he tends to get caught up on screens and can't recover back into the play as well. With Blake Griffin in drop coverage to have a head start on Giannis's roll to the rim, Middleton is able to get Joe Harris on his backside and do what's known as putting him in jail, stopping his drive with a sudden halt to make it impossible for Joe Harris to get to the front of Middleton. Compare that pick and roll coverage to Bruce Brown, who utilizes his excellent recovery skills to his advantage while guarding the Giannis-Chris Middleton pick and roll. Instead of trying to go through Giannis's screen like Joe Harris, Brown actually trails behind Middleton and then uses short, choppy steps to get back in front of him. Milwaukee then flows into targeting Landry Shamet with a post-up from the much stronger Drew Holiday, which is probably something they should do a little more, but that's a story for a different day. Here's another example as Bruce Brown gets skinny around the screen while Blake Griffin drops to contain Giannis, and Brown gets a hand up in the face of Middleton's mid-range shot. Brown's help defense was fantastic as well, and he does a great job here of digging down on Giannis's spin move. The dude was just everywhere on defense, guarding literally everyone. Even shooting the gap and snuffing out Bryn Forbes off ball. Because of that final play, Bruce's performance will get lost over time, but the dude was just miraculous in Game 3, for the most part. I had a few other notes to share from Game 3, so here they are. Brooklyn got a lot of good stuff when they gave Bruce Brown and Kevin Durant an empty side of the floor, which basically means that there are no other offensive players and thereby help defenders sharing that side of the floor with them, allowing Kevin Durant and Bruce Brown to practically play 2-on-2 and put Brook Lopez in absolute hell. Running empty side actions was how Bruce got so many of his floaters as the defense keyed in on Kevin Durant and his baseline jumper. Empty side action is something I'd like to see more of as the series progresses to challenge Brook Lopez. The Nets also got a lot of good stuff when they ran double drag for Kevin Durant, which essentially functions as a pick and roll but with two screens. For one, double drag targeted Brook Lopez hanging back in the paint and drop, giving Kevin Durant mid-range looks. But more importantly, it forced PJ Tucker to get around two screens, and given that the Bucks just seem outright unwilling to switch, Tucker is basically on his own navigating this action. If the Bucks continue to refuse to switch, double drag for Durant and Irving is something I'd go to more if I'm Brooklyn. And then finally, I just hate Nicholas Claxton and Bruce Brown playing together. They're a combined -15 playing together in the postseason so far, and many times when Claxton screens, Brown is forced into spacing the floor, which is obviously not great offense for Brooklyn. And it's even worse when Bruce's defender just abandons him to go rip away a steal. Game 3 was a rock fight, as Jeff Van Gundy put it, but there were some things to be learned. Milwaukee adjusted its coverage, moving away from taking away the paint at all costs and gluing a defender on Kevin Durant and Kyrie Irving at all times. And there's a chance the Bucks learned some things about its utilization of Brook Lopez, moving the lumbering center closer to screens by the end of Game 3 to moderate efficiency. We'll see if those adjustments hold and if they remain effective. Oh, and one last shout out to Bruce Brown for the otherwise outstanding game. But with that, thank you for watching. If you enjoyed this video, be sure to give it a like and subscribe, and go ahead and share this on Twitter and Reddit. If you enjoyed this video, be sure to give me a follow on Twitter. I'm starting to get some viewers from YouTube, so if you don't already know, I am a Brooklyn Nets reporter, and will be tweeting quotes as well as my general takeaways from Sunday's Game 4. So go ahead and give me a follow. But that's all I've got today. Thank you guys for watching, and I will see you next time. Peace!